Good evening, Internet. My name is Michael, and I'm here to review some stuff for you. Well, it's December, which means it's Christmas time, but it also means, as the last 2 years running, the new Hobbit movie's out, and I just got back from watching it. So I shall finish up my trilogy of reviews by reviewing The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies. First, let me do a spoiler-free review for you. This is a really good movie. It's very entertaining, incredibly action-packed. It's a bit longer than the other two, or at least the first one, but it doesn't really feel too long. Mostly the movie's fight scene after fight scene after fight scene, action scene after action scene. On a whole, it's very, very good, very, very fun, and a very decent ending to the trilogy. I'll give it a 5, and I highly recommend you watch it. Alright, now for the spoiler-tastic review. Alright, so this is a pretty good movie. Like I said, it's about 2.5 hours long. It doesn't feel it too much. It still has a bit of the trilogy bloat from like the second one. To start off with, we have Smaug attacking Lake Town. And this takes about 10 minutes of the movie. He's attacking it, and of course Bard slays him. And Bard slays him in a really, really epic way. I don't want to spoil that at all. He shoots him with the black arrow, of course, but the stuff he has to do to shoot him with the black arrow is pretty cool. So that part was awesome. I still don't understand why they didn't have those 10 minutes at the end of the other movie, but I'm over that. So anyway, that happens, and then it gets into the main nitty-gritty of the movie where the dwarves are still back in the mountain. Thorin's losing his mind. He really, really wants the Arkenstone, and the greed's just killing him. And through about half the movie, he's just slowly slipping more and more into madness. At the same time, Gandalf is still captured by Sauron, and Lady Galadriel comes to rescue him. And she breaks him out of the prison, and he's about to be killed, and she basically kills an orc that was about to kill him, because apparently the place he was at has been emptied. All the orcs and stuff are on their way to Lonely Mountain. So she saves him, but then the Nazgul show up. And in this one, the Nazgul are quite a bit different than they are in Lord of the Rings. They're more like ghosts, like actual ghosts. It's a very different take. It's not too bad. It's a little weird, but it's pretty cool. They're going to kick her ass, but then Elrond and Saruman show up. And it was actually nice seeing Saruman actually kicking some ass and taking names. Anyway, they fight him off. Gandalf's taken away by Radagast, and then Sauron shows up. And he's telling them they're all fools and stuff. But then Galadriel goes Super Saiyan, I guess. I don't really know what she does. She uses the light from the vial thing and banishes him. And it was a pretty cool scene where that happens. And that's the end of the Necromancer storyline. That's all there was to it. I thought that would be a whole lot bigger part of the movie, but it wasn't. Anyway, after that, it goes back, and you got the Battle of Five Armies stuff, where the humans, all they want is some money. They want Thorin to keep his promise that happened during the second movie, that he would give them money, for helping them. But he doesn't want to. The elves show up, and the elves want the main elf king. He wants his jewels. And they just sort of had a pissing competition between them, and they're standing off about getting ready to attack Lonely Mountain, where the 13 dwarves are. And, Bilbo took the Arkenstone, gave it to the Elven King, and they're trying to bargain with that and stuff. But then the Dwarven army shows up, and we get to see Dane, who's the leader of those dwarves, and he's quite entertaining and very fun. Anyway, they're having their big standoff when the Orc army finally shows up. And this is where the rest of the movie is just a giant combat. The Orc army attacks, the dwarves, the men, the elves, they all team up and they attack the orcs, and they're fighting each other, and it goes into the ruined town of Dale where the humans were staying. They start fighting in there. There's lots of character moments here and there, especially with like Bard's kids. They do some cool stuff. All in all, the war is pretty entertaining. During it, also, Thorin's locked himself and his dwarves up in the mountain, and he's just going insane, and he just wants to keep the gold for himself, and he doesn't want to risk their lives. But then he has a character building moment where he gets over his madness, which was, it's a little weird, but it's pretty entertaining and pretty cool, and it shows good character growth for the character. Anyway, after that, there's more fighting, and eventually it culminates with a standoff between Azog and Thorin. They fight on top of a mountain, and Thorin gets Orcris back for a little bit, and it was a pretty satisfying fight where they fought each other. And of course Thorin dies. Fili and Kili also die, but they died in the main story, so you know, you're kind of expecting it. Speaking of Fili and Kili, I don't remember which one, but one of them was the love triangle with the female elf. They do a better job of it in this movie than they did in the second one, and Legolas is actually a pretty major part of this movie. They decided to take his ridiculousness up to 11. I mean, he was cool and badass in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they got a little over the top in the second Hobbit movie. And this one, it's just, you just go with it. It's just hilariously just how crazy the stuff he does. There's a part where he's on a bridge and it starts collapsing, and he runs up the stones as they're falling. And he has some good fights. Even Gandalf has some really good fights. Bilbo does Bilbo stuff. He's an integral part. The real main character of this movie, though, is by far Thorin. And all in all, it's an excellent movie. And it ends pretty much where it began, with the birthday party during the Lord of the Rings, and Gandalf knocks on the door, and that's the end of the movie. So all in all, I definitely do give this a 5, and I highly recommend you watch it. The only thing I'll really say is that this movie didn't really need to exist. This could have been made into 2 movies very easily. Now, as my thoughts on the trilogy as a whole, honestly, I like the first movie the best, and then the second one and this one, I'm going to say have a tie. This one a little bit more than the second one, just for the sheer amount of the war and the battles and stuff are really cool. And the second one just had a lot of parts where it just kind of dragged. But all in all, this is a great trilogy, and I highly recommend it. So anyway, stay tuned next time, and I will review something else.